Might have missed that. Sun bursting through the trees there. So first impressions, Adventure S EVO. I love it. Really good. So lots of things. There's no clutch, and that's been totally fine. I don't think there's been an instance where I thought, God, I could have got out of that if I had a clutch. Nope. So when you want to take off, you're in park, and when you get off the bike, you can just leave it in neutral if you want, but I'm on a slight downhill, so I thought, yes, put it in park. So brake and change up a gear. Okay, now you're in first gear. Stands up, away we go. So it's in manual mode at the moment. No traffic. Away we go. Utilising the really good, smooth quick shifter. Well, the quick shift mechanism that the 1290s and the 1390s have. So it's really smooth. It can be a little bit jerky at certain RPMs, at certain throttle openings, but at normal, predictable riding, it's pretty damn smooth. Just beautiful. So a lot of reviewers have said that the suspension is a step above the previous model, and I think that's true. I did a couple of thousand Ks on the previous S model, and then I missed the R so much I went and bought the R. So I've had the previous 1290R, I had that for 4 years and did 38,000 Ks on that. So I got to know that bike pretty well. Now, for more technical off-road stuff, I actually got a Husqvarna 701, which I sort of use as a bit of an adventure bike for more gnarly terrain. So that gave me an option to actually concentrate a little bit more on road for this bike. I still think Adventure R is the king of off-road for the big super adventures. I think nothing beats its excellent suspension and the fact that it rides like a big dirt bike. But this electronic suspension is really good. Still, when you go into the off-road and tinker, you know, it's still not as good as the R. But this has got this all-round flexibility. The motor is really good. The ergonomics are great. I put the wider pegs that I took off on the R model, the rally pegs, I put them on this one. I've noticed they're a little bit lower. Once I put the rally pegs on, the rally pegs are a little bit lower than the OEM pegs. Not bad traction. So when you go into rally mode, there's a particular view on the screen. I'll flick into that. Let's go rally, go back, rally. Okay, so it remembers all my settings there. So with rally mode, I've got traction set at 0, and I've got, you know, the full 173 horsepower, and I've got rear ABS turned off. So even though we're on a wet road, you just be nice and careful with the wrist, and you know, your traction is mechanically the same. You know, it's perfectly safe. If you start pushing the envelope and using a lot of throttle, then you really risk the whole rear spinning up. Mechanical grip and feel is very good. So if I just page across with that left thumb switch, you can see your lean angles. So you can see it real time as well in red It also shows you maximum lean angles. So far I've had it to about 46 degrees, and these tyres seem to hang on really well. And that was in dry conditions. So it seems to remember it for the current ride you're on. The bike is pretty intuitive. I haven't read the manual for anything, and you can just keep on working your way through things. One thing that's tricky is if you do want to, do some wheelies and have a bit of fun, you do have to go to one of these modes where you turn traction control off. I really wish KTM would separate traction control from wheelie control. So with my previous R model, I could ride all the time in rally mode and then just vary the amount of traction. So even at traction control 5, you can still do power wheelies, no problem. But with this one, if you had traction 5, it would inhibit the wheelie substantially, so you have to turn it much lower on this one. Although this one's got an extra setting where you can go not just down to 1 on the traction control, but you can set it at 0. So then you've got 0 inhibition on wheelies. One problem that also existed with the previous model as well is if you want to use the radar cruise control, which was one of the major reasons I wanted to get this bike, you can't do it in rally mode. It will allow you to have the basic cruise control in rally mode, but you have to have your rear ABS turned on, not off. So in my current mode here, I can't activate, cruise control. So I have set this bike up at the moment with 2 modes where I've got no traction control. One is sport mode, and so that's with firmer suspension, so that's when I've got a nice dry bitumen and I want to have a bit of a play. So I've turned traction control off there, and also rally mode, so I've got traction off in that setting as well. So they're the 2 settings that I use for doing wheelies. Otherwise, when I've got street mode and rain mode, I leave all traction control turned on. So they're my go-to modes for riding normal street, in the dry and in the wet. I did have a little play around with custom 1 mode, and I thought I might use that for riding 2 up, where I'd soften the suspension down to comfort level. But I think you might as well do that, just leave it rain, because rain puts your suspension in soft mode anyway. So rain mode, and plus it makes your throttle a little bit more gentle, and your intervention with your traction control is a little bit more intentional. Let's go back to rain. Okay. And go auto. So put back the 3rd gear there. Now you can adjust your throttle setting and your traction control and all your settings. You can customize each of those within each of their menus. One thing, so we're going slightly uphill at the moment and we're sort of labouring along in 5th gear at about 3000 RPM. I'd prefer that it would keep the revs a little bit higher and with the automatic mode. Now I'm using street mode for the automatic, and I think with sport mode it makes it rev too high. With street mode it makes it rev a little bit too low, so something partially in between would be good. It does sort of learn that if you go really hard on the brakes and hard on the accelerator, it knows you want to have a bit of a play, so it'll hold the gears longer, like that. See, it's holding the gear, it's not changing up. So it is clever like that. Brake hard again. So it dropped down 2 gears there. So its changing set point is a little bit higher when it senses you're in a more aggressive mood. But then it goes back to sedate mode again pretty quickly. Of course you can override it all the time, so here I just go paddle. Even though it's still in auto, I dropped it down 2 gears. Probably go up gear as soon as I go around this corner. It's totally smooth, totally fine. So the generic screen that we've got here, it's not too fancy. It's just very business-like. So auto mode, gears, speed, attention, that's because it needs its first service. Fuel, which annoyingly this bike does consume more fuel than the 1290. So it averages about 5.9 or 6 litres per 100 k's. Now my 1290 would average about 5 litres, so it's about 20% consumption. So yeah, so here's our riding mode. You can press on that, it's a touch screen. So when you press on it, it shows you what settings you've got for traction control, ABS, automated manual transmission, damping, preload, electronic brake controller, and anti-dive. And then basically your little back arrow brings you back to the generic screen. Now this one, you can toggle through 4 sort of screens here. This one is the cruise control. So 1 press, 2 press. Now we've got automatic with standard following with the radar cruise control, and then you turn it on. So now radar cruise control is ready, and then I'll activate it once we get around the corner here. It's that. So if it sees another vehicle, and then you can just use your little left mouse, or you can press on the screen. That little left mouse, you can go up and down and increase or decrease your following distances, and then you can also change it to group mode. I haven't tried that because I've only been riding with one other bike, but if we're riding with multiple bikes, I'll give that a try next time. So the other, as we go right again, we've got our maps. So I've loaded the maps for Australia. It interestingly had other choices. So we had Australia maps, and then also for each individual state. I assume they're more detailed because the amount of memory that it wanted to consume to load Queensland was massive. And then with the Australia maps in, there was not enough room to put Queensland as well. So it's a bit weird. But this has got all the maps for road and dirt that I've come across so far. So normally I run a Garmin. Oh, I love the afternoon sun coming through here. And there's the police. So I love running my Garmin, and I would set it up here, but physically with a portrait view screen, it makes it very difficult. But luckily the navigation system on here is really good. I love this rainforest too. So if we want to set maps on where we want to go, so just go back to the main menu, press menu, go down to navigation, and I've got a few favourites saved in there. So we've got Mount Glorious as our current route, just been through there. We can add waypoint, etc. Or we can go back up. And we want to cancel that one. I want to go for another destination. also there, it's got the navigation set, so it's sort of saying turn around down here and come back up, get to Mount Glorious. That'll do for now. I was going to put home in there, so you can scroll in, scroll out, you can add waypoints. Now I think they're going to do an update soon where you can upload GPX files, but at the moment you can't. It doesn't communicate with the phone, apparently. So these are the sort of conditions where you're just cruising along at the speed limit that I think you don't need to be fast with changing gears manually. Just leave it in automatic. You get to where you want to go, you're still enjoying your ride, you're still fully in control. So I'll have to add some video of actually going dirt. There's not many videos of people using their EVO S on dirt. So when it stops raining and I've got time, I'm going to head up the mountain and give some of the hill climbs a go. One great thing to remember is you can't stall it. So one time I dropped my Adventure R, I was going up a steep hill climb and I was going down from second gear to first gear and I got a false neutral, and just with that little moment of pause the bike slowed down enough and I tried to come to a complete stop so I could get back to first gear. I should have just slammed it in first, but I tried to come to a stop first, and then the bike started slipping backwards with the front brake on because it was so steep, and then the bike fell over. So, you know, you're not going to get false neutrals on this. You're not going to stall it. So inherently, some off-road stuff might actually become easier. You know, this bike would always be a compromised off-road because it's got that 19-17 wheel combination. It's not the 21-18 that the R has got, and the suspension is also going to be a limitation. But as a fun, go most places sort of bike, this bike definitely ticks all the boxes for me. I'll see what my wife thinks about it as a 2-up bike as well. We do have the K1600 and she loves that, so it's not going to be better than that, but it might be quite adequate for trips away when I want to do a little bit of combination of dirt. So some of these steep wet downhills, it does automatically change down gear, so it's in third. That seems quite adequate. I've sort of spent a day and a half in rain mode. So, which leads me to one thing. These Dunlop Meridian tyres are actually pretty good. I'm very much a Pirelli fan, but these ones in dirt seem quite good. And obviously hard-packed dirt, gravel, they're going to go quite okay. As long as it's not thick anything, like thick mud, thick sand, thick gravel. But when it comes to the road, it just feels awesome. They're just really good. And the traction, it's never given me any scares in the wet so far, so I think its wet traction is pretty good. I think the Pirelli Trail 3s would be superior wet traction on bitumen, but these ones apparently have a bit more bite when it comes to off-road. So I don't know what sort of mileage I get out of it, but my initial impressions are really good. So back into the tropical part of the forest up here. Mist and cloud about. It's more of a rainy morning. Just haven't had a chance to dry. It's only 16 degrees up here. Moss on the road. Anyway. Just cruise. Check out those big gums. I hope how beautiful this is shows up in the video. See on the map why we like to come up here. Just a few windy corners. Unfortunately, in the 3 decades I've been riding up here, the speed limit has dropped progressively quite a lot. Quite nice with the sun streaking through the trees there. Like it.